The world was already on fire when a quieter, deadlier war began, one that few would ever see. In 1940, as Europe drowned in the roar of artillery and the sky burned with air raids, a secret network was forming beneath the surface. It wasn't made of tanks or divisions, but of whispers, coded letters, and faces that vanished into the crowd. These were the Ghost Agents, men and women who fought without recognition, operating in the gray between truth and survival. They worked in safe houses disguised as cafes, slipped false documents into trembling hands, and sent invisible messages through the static of shortwave radios. Every movement was a risk, every ally a potential traitor, and yet they pressed on, guided only by the fragile hope that the information they carried might save thousands they would never meet. In London, the lights of Whitehall burned late into the night as the newly formed Special Operations Executive, the SOE, quietly recruited ordinary civilians for extraordinary missions. Linguists, journalists, students, even actors, each trained to become invisible. Across the Channel, occupied cities like Paris and Warsaw turned into living labyrinths of secrecy. Every bicycle courier or bookshop clerk might be a messenger for freedom or a spy for the enemy. Fear was constant, but it became a kind of weapon, too, the silent force that drove them to act when logic said not to. They were never meant to be seen, only felt in the ripples of confusion they left behind. A derailed train, a missing officer, a coded broadcast slipped into the night. For these agents, the war was not measured in battles won, but in messages delivered and lives delayed from destruction. Their fight had no front lines, only shifting shadows that demanded silence and sacrifice. Yet in those hidden corners of Europe, they created a resistance that would outlast the armies themselves. But behind every code name, every daring escape, there lay something more dangerous than any weapon, the growing web of deception that would soon entangle even those who spun it. In the quiet rooms of intelligence headquarters, a new kind of warfare was being written, one made not of steel and blood, but of secrets and silence. The Allied command understood that to win the war, they had to outthink the enemy before they could outfight them. Thus emerged the invisible empire of intelligence, a web stretching from London to Lisbon, from Cairo to the frozen streets of Oslo. Every whisper mattered. Every intercepted telegram, every suspicious glance, every courier crossing a border under false papers became a piece of the world's most intricate chess game. The British Special Operations Executive, SOE, the American Office of Strategic Services, OSS, and the underground networks of the French resistance formed an unlikely alliance. Together they wove chaos into order and deception into strategy. A train explosion in northern France might not be an accident. Radios and lies. The Ghost Agents' war had shifted from sabotage to strategy. The battlefield was now the enemy's mind. The walls of secret command rooms in London vibrated with tension. Operation Fortitude was underway, a sprawling deception plan that would convince the German High Command that the D-Day invasion would strike not at Normandy, but at Calais. Inflatable tanks, fake airfields, and entire divisions made of wooden dummies were deployed across England. Even the weather reports were manipulated, every radio transmission carefully crafted to be overheard. Double agents like Juan Pujol Garcia, known by his code name Garbo, fed the Nazis a symphony of false intelligence, so consistent and convincing that Hitler himself delayed reinforcements for the real invasion. But beneath this brilliance lay unbearable strain. The same agents who orchestrated these illusions lived under crushing secrecy, unable to reveal their triumphs, even to their families. Their victories existed only in silence, in the absence of enemy troops, in the confusion of intercepted orders, in the hesitation of a dictator misled by his own confidence. Each falsehood had to be perfect, each word carefully balanced between plausibility and discovery. One mistake could cost thousands of lives. And yet, this deception changed the course of history. D-Day succeeded not just because of courage on the beaches, but because the enemy was looking in the wrong direction. The Ghost Agents had redefined warfare itself, turning misinformation into a weapon as lethal as any bomb. But with that power came a haunting realization. They had crossed an invisible line. In crafting a world of lies to defeat tyranny, they had blurred the very essence of truth. When the war's tide finally began to turn, these secret soldiers found themselves caught in a strange emptiness. Their tools, forgery, deceit, manipulation, had saved the world, yet left them morally stranded. What happens when victory is built on illusion? For those who lived in the shadows, there was no easy answer. The line between right and wrong had dissolved into fog, and when the guns fell silent, they would discover that their greatest battle was no longer against an enemy, but against the ghosts of what they had become. When the war finally ended in 1945, the world celebrated peace. But for the Ghost Agents, peace never truly came. Their names were erased from records, their deeds buried under layers of secrecy. The coded messages, the false identities, the silent courage that had helped win the war were all locked away in classified archives. History marched on, but without them. They had fought in a war that left no medals, no parades, only memories that could never be shared. For many, the end of the war did not bring freedom. It brought disappearance. Some were betrayed by the very governments they served. Promised protection, they were instead silenced in the name of national security. Files were destroyed, code names forgotten, and those who survived returned to ordinary lives haunted by the extraordinary lies they had once lived. The same intelligence systems that had depended on them now disavowed them. A few continued their work in new forms, the Cold War's dawn offering fresh battlefields for deception, while others faded into quiet obscurity, living behind false names long after the need for secrecy had passed. Yet, their influence echoed through the decades, the lessons learned from their invisible war-shaped modern espionage, the creation of MI6, the CIA, and the covert tactics that defined 20th century geopolitics. Psychological warfare, disinformation, and counterintelligence all found their roots in the methods the Ghost Agents pioneered. Their sacrifices built the foundation of a new perpetual conflict where information replaced armies, and the Frontlines moved into the realm of ideas. But behind the triumph of intelligence lies a question that time has never answered. What is the cost of truth when lies win the war? These men and women became the architects of a world where secrecy was not a weapon of defense, but a permanent condition of power. In the silence of post-war Europe, in the flicker of an old radio, the crackle of a forgotten broadcast, their ghosts linger still, whispering from the margins of history. They were soldiers who never wore uniforms, heroes who never asked for recognition. And though the nations they served may have buried their names, their legacy lives on in every covert operation, every coded message, every shadow war fought in the name of peace. Their war ended in 1945, but their ghosts still walk beside us, unseen, in every secret the world keeps today.